Hello, this is the Cultural Fluency Podcast with Angel Pretot, the French coach. That's me. And today in episode number 12, I am with Roy Coughlan. Did I pronounce that right?
Colin, but it's
Colin,
good. It's
my
all
bad.
good.
Roy Coughlan. This is an Irish name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell us everything about that. So you're a podcast host with 5 podcasts, that all of which have been in the top 1.5%. And with 5 very, very different topics. So I think the best is for you, Roy, to introduce your very eclectic self to our very eclectic audience. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on the show. Oh, I basically, as you mentioned, Irish. I'm from the south of Ireland, Cork, and I moved 15 years ago to the center of Poland, a place called Łódź. And I suppose my history is that I was working in construction in Ireland. When I went to Poland, worked a lot in construction as well, started building houses and apartments, and done a lot of renovations. And then moved into the kind of podcasting. So I suppose the 5 that I've got are the speaking, which helps you speak, the meditation to help you chill, learn Polish, which is, I know, important too, languages, and then the awakening, which was the most passionate for me, which is exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions. And then the recent one is the crypto podcast. We're talking about everything blockchain technology, NFTs, and stuff like that.
Wow, that's a lot. How did you move from Ireland to Poland, and then from construction to podcasting? This is how did that happen?
So I never planned to move to Poland. So I had met a Polish girl in Ireland, and when I was visiting our parents, I saw, oh, property is very cheap here. So I started buying a few properties, and then saw kind of opportunity, because the market, that was around 2005, kind of 2006, maybe even earlier, about 2005, that everybody was kind of buying, the banks were throwing money at people. So we kind of set up a company that was for foreign buyers, mainly Irish, but we ended up having English and American clients as well, to sell them Polish property, mainly in the city there. So I wasn't planning on moving there. I was just kind of going out 1 week a month, but the relationship didn't work out. And then later I would have lost everything. So I had to move there. That was the reason that I went there. But it kind of worked out, because the way in Ireland, the construction industry, at one stage we were building, I think, 96,000 houses, and then it dropped to 4,000. So that's why I loaded. And I mean, I was working more in mechanical and electrical, doing working on, say, school projects, pharmaceutical, sometimes up to 10 million on a project. So there was big, large equipment and stuff like that. But basically, that's why a load of the tradespeople went to Australia, went to Canada. And I think if I had stayed there, there wasn't that much work. So it was probably good timing. I mean, a lot of people were saying you're doing the opposite. Most of the Polish were going to Ireland and England, and I was going in the opposite direction. But I always find in life, do the opposite to what most people do, and you tend to be in a safer location.
This is absolutely true. And so all of this started because of a Polish girl. And am I right to understand that at that time you were not speaking Polish at all? So how was that experience, just going to Poland, doing construction work? I'm assuming you were working with locals as well. How did you manage that?
So at the start, I kind of didn't really, I was just picking up a few bits, when I wasn't moving there. But when I moved there, I knew I needed to kind of immerse myself. So the first thing I did was I signed up for a month course with the university. And it was a waste of time and money, because there was about maybe, 12 people in the class from all nationalities. They were all way more advanced. I had 0 Polish, and it was only in Polish. So I was lost. And, they shouldn't have accepted me, to be honest with you, when they knew that was the situation. So all I was doing was kind of copying and made good friendships out of it. But as far as learning, it was a mistake. Then I started doing Rosetta Stone, Pimsleur. I always had CDs in the car, and I felt, okay, I need to get some lessons. So because I was running so many different companies, I didn't want to do it during the day, because that's when you get most of your work done. It was kind of in the evening. So I was getting a private teacher that was coming to me. And basically at times I was falling asleep, because, doing grammar and stuff like that. So she used to get tennis balls and get me to walk around the room juggling tennis balls just to keep me active. And I definitely did improve, but not at a great level.
Mhm.
And then I kind of stopped. I said, look, this isn't serving me. And it wasn't that I wasn't always listening to CDs in the car. But what I found, at one stage I had about 14 people working for me. And a lot of the times they'd come in and they'd have very little English, but they were just constantly practicing. And the
Right.
mistake I made is I preferred the easy life where let's just switch to English. And,
Mhm.
you know, I like kind of having the humor and everything. And it was very hard for me to kind of have humor in Polish. So my level was fairly basic.
Right.
Then I went to a school, and basically the first day, the teacher I just thought, nah, not for me. So I was not going to go back. And the guy that was kind of in charge of everything spoke to me, and I said, look, I don't think it's for me. He said, look, try a different teacher. And that teacher, then my level just totally improved a lot.
Mhm.
And I ended up actually marrying the girl, and I have a child. Yeah,
Best technique ever.
exactly. And I have a child, but like the relationship didn't work. We've been separated for years, but we've a great friendship.
Mhm.
But I improved so much with that. And I'm actually doing the Polish podcast with her, and we've just
Oh,
celebrated over 300 episodes. And it's
wow.
been like 2 weeks ago, I was #1 in Iceland. I mean, I'm kind of looking at that going, Iceland, and I've been in Jamaica and Malta and loads of countries that it's kind of got to the top of the charts.
That's so interesting. So your podcast about learning Polish is becoming #1 in all sorts of unrelated countries. When you say #1, do you mean of the learn Polish category, or do you mean
No,
across
of languages, not
of
of the whole.
languages
Yeah,
altogether?
because I mean, like there's times where I would take a screenshot. It's hard to actually see it. So now it's more, I've got programs that actually just send me where I am in the different charts. But before, sometimes you would actually see the screenshot, and to be beaten,
Right.
say, the likes of Duolingo, it just felt good, you know, because I mean, obviously
Yeah.
they've got such a,
How
you know,
does that happen? Because they have
I
so
don't
much
know.
budget, you know?
Exactly. So it's
So
nice to see that.
what kind of software do you use for that? It's actually something I'd be personally interested in
The one I
exploring more.
was using at the start was Chartable. So that was actually,
Chartable, yeah.
and then there's another
Okay.
one now, Pod Status, I believe, but I check in a minute. I'm not 100% sure, but I have it written down, and yeah, some of these things are free, others you pay,
Right.
premium, and you put in codes and all this. But I prefer the one I get a daily email. It's got all my podcasts, and I go, okay, you're #1 here, you're number 500, like 150 in the USA and things like that. It's just nice to know. So just for yourself and for maybe other podcasters, what I do is, like when I got #1 in Iceland, I just kind of said, thanks very much, Iceland, and share. Because what happens is sometimes somebody from Iceland be kind of looking at this, and it would grab their attention and they might start listening. And I think the reason why it's kind of popular in a lot of these countries, like there's a lot of Polish in Iceland, there's a lot of Polish in Norway, in Ireland and England. And what's happening is they're actually meeting their partners that are the ones that are learning, because they're going to come back and meet, the parents, or maybe they have children together and they want to kind of converse in both languages. And I think that's why it's so, popular in a lot of countries.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. A lot of people end up learning languages because of their partners. I myself have a lot of students whose partners are French or French speaking, and they end up learning French because of that. So you made this podcast about learning Polish, but it wasn't your first podcast, right? Which one was your first?
My first was actually I suppose the best thing is to learn how the podcasting started, because it's all kind of connected. So with all my real estate and everything, I was managing about 10 different companies. When the crash happened in America in 2008, I was kind of still okay. I was doing well with different things in my own company as well, which was managing properties and fitting them out and renovating them, doing the furniture and all that. But my investors, they all lost everything. And I thought they were going to get it right, because some of them were worth like 30 million, 10 million. I was like the small boy in some of these syndicates, but they didn't get it right. And I was feeding a few of these companies, which was a kind of mistake in hindsight, like the commercial property. I was putting it in saying, sure, I'll just increase my shareholding. It'll come right. It never came right. And the whole lot came tumbling down. And normally with a limited liability company, it's the company kind of has the problem.
Right.
In Poland, it's the president of the company has the problem, and nobody had
Really?
told me.
They
Yeah,
don't have limited liability in Poland?
no.
Oh, wow.
The accountants or the
First time I'm
solicitors.
hearing that.
Yeah, never told me that. So I
Wow.
I had about 1 million, and I was looking to be about 5 million euro.
Mhm.
And it ended up that I was personally liable for 5 million because I was halfway through
Right.
projects and we had loans for commercial and different things. And all the investors kind of just washed their hands and walked away, and like hoping if something came right that they would get something back. But the reality was it was me that was kind of, and through that journey saw that the bailiffs were corrupt, the banks were corrupt, the
Right.
courts were corrupt. Like an example of the bailiffs, they bribed people in a room to buy the property, whoever they had buying it, but they basically paid people off in a room with a housing project that I had. With other stuff, I could see that they were working with a valuer, decreasing the value of the property. And
Right.
it was like, I was looking at this going, this is so wrong. And realizing a lot of people, millions of people around the world are going through this. And it later, through research, saw bailiffs in England, in Ireland, in the US. So I'm assuming in the majority of countries, this is what's happening. And
Right.
I lost like my houses in Ireland. I had 3 houses in Ireland, my own residential property, all my personal belongings. They took the whole lot. I had court cases. I had over 100 court cases. And I was saying, this is so wrong, because there's a thing called an affidavit, which is a sworn statement. So the banks send this sworn statement to the courts. And I was like, this is all lies. So I have to respond to that one, but then create my own. And they could never answer it because I had them on corruption that they were doing.
Right.
But I still lost the case. And with the High Court, if you reapply, it can basically open up the whole amount of money plus additional money. And I won on the barrister fees and I won on interest. So it was like about 65,000. They sold a property at less than what I had an offer for and wanted to come after me for the excess. And just through that and witnessing other court cases at the time. So normally in a courtroom, you have plaintiff defendant with their own solicitors and a judge. But in Ireland, it was like a room with 150 people and one judge, and they're just going through case after case. Yeah, exactly. And judge rule, in favor of the bank plus interest plus penalties. And a barrister is like the high end. I don't know if you call them barristers in France, but basically it's like the high end of a solicitor and an attorney. And some of them can be charging 10 grand a day. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
So if I appealed to the case that I lost, it would have actually been 65 versus maybe 300,000 plus additional money, which would have been 500,000. And I couldn't actually risk that. Then I decided I want to go to the EU. And with the EU, you have to actually appeal the first case. So I was kind of saying, no, we can't help you. And during this kind of episode where I'm listening to all these cases, there was one, they said, oh, we got KPMG to check all the interest payments. We were overcharged 15,000 euro. And the judge said, when was that? 2 or 3 years ago. Oh, you should have took it up with them then. Bang, ruled in favor of the... And then there was like a woman, my husband has died from the stress of this, and she's shaking with a piece of paper. I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm really sorry. Bang, ruled in favor of the banks, which meant she was basically not only losing her husband, but her house as well. And I was like, what's going on here? This is so bad. So I went, I know it's a long end of the story, but it's all connected. I went to an event, and the event was called What's Your Quest? And I was thinking, I'm chugging through life, but what's my mission in life? And I determined at that meeting that I want to help people that go through this and expose all the fraud and corruption, because a lot of the times, unfortunately, people throw in the towel, they lose relationships, the whole family is, broken because of intended corruption. And when I was there, there was 2 brilliant speakers, and I was so impressed with them, and I hated public speaking. Like, when I was working in construction in Ireland, I'd sit around a table with architects and builders and the clients, say for Johnson and Johnson, and I would just crumble. My voice would go, I couldn't go on stage. It wasn't for me. But I knew to get my message out, I needed to become a good speaker. So when I came back, I joined Toastmasters, then I joined another Toastmasters, then I formed my own club. I done every competition I could do. I did an open mic comedy. I did an open mic TEDx. and I got into the final of 5 countries for public speaking, and I was coaching another crowd. Loads of people wanted me to be their mentor. And with Toastmasters, the kind of highest thing is like distinguished Toastmaster. I got that in 3 years, which a lot of people never.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I went from
I've been the Toastmaster for 4 years. I'm very far from that. So yeah, 3 years is impressive.
I basically went from one extreme to the other, and got to a stage where, became very confident speaking. And during that journey, I went to another event with the same crowd, and there was a guy doing a workshop on creating a podcast. Never even thought of it prior to that. So I went, oh, I like this. This is interesting. This is a great way for me to get my message out. And I said, I'll start with the speaking because I won't be attacked with that one. And that's how the speaking. So because I had access to a load of Toastmasters, it kind of started with that. And then I've had, I don't know how many countries. At one stage I was trying to track it, but 40 countries at least that I have speakers from, and most of them are international speakers or coaches, which is helping people to overcome the fear of public speaking. So I know by doing that, I'm helping others, because I also see a lot of people want change in the world, but half the time, you have people marching and they're just shouting stupid things instead of having, somebody that can stand up and have a system in place, have a process, how we're going to do this, when's the next meeting going to happen. So by being able to speak in public, you can get the people to follow you and try to make the change that you need.
Right. So this was your first one, the speaking podcast.
Yeah.
But what you really wanted to do was the one about corruption, right? The awakening.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
when and how did you get to doing this one?
So I decided I would write a book first. I have it there, but I never published it. I got 20 copies of this book. It's called The Awakening, A New World Revolution. And the people that I got it into their hands, they all said I would be whacked for what I'm exposing, because I was showing so much, but proof, because it wasn't just me, like a lot of it, my own stories, but I was also able to give a lot of proof in it and explain a lot of things. It was more about health as well as different things on, food and things like that, say microwave oven and stuff. It was like a real wake-up call to how we think society is looking after us, but it's actually totally the opposite. And when so many people said, no, you need to hold off on this, I kind of put a back step on doing the podcast next for that. So the next one actually became the meditation podcast. When I went through this kind of losing everything, to be honest, I mean, it did affect me. I was depressed. It was like, because it was nothing I done bad. It's like, you're working hard and next everything kind of disappears overnight.
Yeah.
So I was listening to different meditation, and one of them was by Vishnukiyani, which is the 6-phase meditation.
Right.
And
I love that one. It's a really good one.
It's brilliant. And I never done meditation before that. And I was like, this is good, because this kind of one is what you're grateful for, because you attract it, especially when things aren't going good for you. And I know at the moment there's a load of people suffering with all this organized utilities going through the roof and fuel costs going through the roof, that they don't see light at the end of the tunnel. And by just appreciating the little things, whether it's the child smiling at you, whether it's the cup of coffee in the morning, just because what you appreciate, you attract more. And I found the gratitude was one, but probably the most powerful one was the act of forgiveness, because I've had court cases and just people being fraudulent as well, which didn't help my cases, that you kind of hold it in with you and the anger, and it's your suffering. So if I have hatred towards the person that hurts me, he's trotting through the reef planning his next victim. Whereas, so I was actually planning, organizing forgiveness. It's not that you just do one meditation and it's gone. Some small little cases, yes, later. But as soon as I done that, so in other words, me telling that story there didn't bring me into pain. It's no problem to me now. But you can see that sometimes with somebody, when they're telling a story, they're still there and the pain is still there with them and they've never kind of let it go. So I kind of believe it's like you're poisoning your own cells by having this negativity. And when you get to actually have forgiveness, release it. And I suppose a way of kind of letting people know how to forgive is bring everybody back to the child, because we have unconditional love for a child.
Yes.
But through abuse, alcoholic parents, or the education system, whatever it is, people become corrupt, fraudulent.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to kind of take that back and say that is because of their circumstances. You know, did they have a chance in life? And when you can kind of take it back a few layers, you can have forgiveness, which in turn is it's your benefiting, because you no longer have that anger inside, and you're able to just, I suppose, enjoy life a lot more, be more mindful and present. So with the different meditations that I listened, one of them was the 6 phase. Then I created my own one in my head, and then I was listening to different ones. Then a lot of them disappeared or they became paid. And when things are tight, you're not going to be paying for stuff like that. So I said, I want meditation for people free, always will be free, and different types. So I've got breath work, sound meditation, and I also get people coming in. We do interviews, and then they send me meditations, and that's the same. It's been, I think that was #1 in the US under spirituality. It's been UK. It's a load of countries that's been in the top of the charts as well. And I enjoy it, to be honest, and I get, lots of compliments from people that are listening, and I hope it's helping them like it helped me.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, definitely. I mean, I know you already originally through the meditation podcast because you had me on that show. So I'll put the link and everything in the show notes. So you started with the speaking, you really wanted to do the awakening, but now you have 2 podcasts, speaking and meditation, and you still don't have the awakening. So what was the number 3?
It was the Polish one.
Okay.
And I had no intention of creating a Polish podcast. It was, I wanted to be improving my Polish. So I started searching, and all I found was scripted podcasts, which are terrible. I mean, you've come across them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's just, it's scripted. Oh, hello, how are you? What a lovely day. Yes, it's great. And you just know they're reading it. And I don't know why people do that. And the other ones were only in Polish, which is kind of going back to my situation, like the university. That's not how I learn. I learn from actually. So I approached my ex and said, listen, let's do this, because she's got the school. And I thought it's a good way for her to get some clients, which it is. She's getting a lot of clients from it. But I'm still learning. So what I do is we do a few in a block, but I don't kind of go through it a few days beforehand. Or a lot of time the graphic is coming in just before we record. Maybe we might look at it and I just make sure I get pronounced. A lot of times I leave in my errors because I want people to realize it's not that easy. Because sometimes if you're listening to somebody and they're flawless, it can, and you're not, it can maybe kind of think, there's something wrong with me. So there's plenty of times I cannot say a certain word, or I'm saying it wrong. It takes me a while. And I get so many comments of people that actually like that. Plus, we use a bit of humor as well. We don't take 10 takes. We just record, do 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it. And I just put it up on the audio and Podbean, and it goes to BitChute and YouTube as well. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's doing very well, and I enjoy it. I actually listen myself later. So when I'm editing, I'm kind of re-listening, and then sometimes I'll just play it away. So it's for me as well. So I've created it for me, but I know I'm helping, like with the audio, we hit over 600,000 downloads, and on the YouTube, I took over my ex's channel because she didn't use it for about 3 or 4 years, but we're like 1.2 million on that. So yeah, it's massive, the numbers.
It works. It helps a lot of people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think it's the first time I'm hearing that about such a concept, even across languages. I don't think there is such a thing for French, and it starts me thinking, because maybe I could do something like that. I would need to find someone who is a French learner still, and yeah, I'll think about that.
I think it would work. I think it's brilliant, because
anyone that
wanted, and then the added advantage is, like, I don't know how many clients she's after getting. She's after getting a load of clients, and clients don't just come in for one thing. They come in for signing up for a couple of months, and if they're really like, if they need it for work and they want to become fluent, so you're not charging for it. Some people actually can charge for a podcast and have something like that, but I think the free version is better, because some people, they don't have the resources, and you're helping people that cannot afford a coach, but at the same time, there's plenty that can. And when they see and hear your skill set, and I know that from actually our own interview, which people should listen to, I realized this is somebody that I would like to teach me. And I think you would get a load of clients based on that.
Yeah, I think you have a point. And to be honest, I'm not fond of selling recordings alone. I think that the value in learning a language is really in practicing. And there are just so many possibilities to put your recordings up for free. And like the challenge is really have people find them. Like that's really the challenge for me. At the moment, I have a small YouTube channel with 3,000 followers. It's, well, it's bigger than most by a lot. Like it's in the top 7% or something. But
that's
still,
the problem. Yeah, we start beating ourselves up because we start comparing ourselves with, say, the Jay Shettys or a lot of these people have 10 people working from that are blasting out this stuff.
Right.
And like what I say to anybody who's either a podcaster or is looking to start, if you've got 10 listeners or even up to 30, you go into a room and there's 30 people sitting there listening to what you're saying, would you be happy? Everybody would go back every week to have, and sometimes there'll be a few people leave and sometimes more will come. But if it stayed around the 30, would you do it? Of course you would. But for some reason, we think that when we're podcasting, we want 1 million, and it should be more that you're helping one person.
Right. I'm absolutely happy for everyone I'm helping. And it's enough for me. The question is all of those that are lost somewhere and are only faced by things like, Duolingo. No hate on them, but we know they don't really work. Like, how do you reach them? Because how do they find you?
Yeah, you have to be creative with your marketing, and it depends on the different ones. So, for example, Reddit. I'm in Polish groups in Reddit, and I share my stuff there. The videos go there. So, but there's a lot of groups that won't allow you to share a link, which is unfortunate. But you can start engaging as well. So it depends on the amount of time. If you're only doing one podcast and you're doing, say, a 9-to-5 job and you've got a couple of hours a day to spare, then you could do that. You start engaging and then people will look at your profile and then slowly but surely they'll start following you. The other one then is Facebook. I know a lot of people hate Facebook. I've been shadow banned and everything. I'm not really a fan of the owners, but at the same time, I know how to use it. So, for example, the Polish one, I'm in a load of groups, foreigners in Poland, expats in Poland, all that. I go for because there's a load of people that have moved to Poland and they were in the same situation as me and they need to improve. And I'm getting good connections from that. People are allowing me to share it, which in turn, and people are making comments. I always comment back, or even on the YouTube, if somebody gives a nice comment, I always just, even a simple thank you. It just makes them feel, whereas a lot of people don't, they just, they're happy with kind of it chugging along. But if you engage, people are more likely to keep listening and they feel appreciated as well. And also kind of make questions. Like sometimes we'll ask people, what would you like? And people have wrote to us, say, I'd love if you could cover this. So we do. And then we write to them and go, we've done. So like they're going to share with their friends.
Right.
They really know that you're listening to them and you're there to serve. And sometimes people, they just chug along and they just don't even engage with their listeners. At the end of the day, your listeners are the ones that actually helping you move along.
Right. Yeah, I definitely engage with every comment that I get and all of that. So yeah, it's definitely what I'm doing. So first speaking, 2 meditation, 3 Polish. You said earlier that the crypto was the newest one. So I'm guessing after 3 podcasts, you finally got to the awakening.
Exactly. So I done a course and I thought I wanted to up my level. So I did this course. It was like a 2-month course on podcasting, met amazing people, but they were all kind of saying to me, you should be teaching this, because they had kind of different people looking after 3 or 4 different groups. And I could see that their level wasn't the same. And I was saying to people, no, try this, do this. I was helping. And it was the one podcast that I didn't get into the top of the charts because I followed their system. And I said, no, I should have done it my own way. But created it. And with the people that I met through that, we do live shows. So I have interviewed, not just on my own shows, I'll say Mickey Willis, who would have been the guy that done the pandemic documentary, which has basically over 1 billion views. Apparently it's the number 1 in the world for a documentary being viewed. So I've had him on my show. Then I brought him on to the group of us. So, we call our Freedom Broadcasters. So we do a live call every kind of Tuesday and Thursday when we're able to. we've had just recently Dr. Peter McCullough, so he's kind of fairly well known because he's been working in the Senate with the kind of craziness that's going on, exposing a lot of the fraud and corruption. I got David Icke, and it definitely helps having somebody like that because people might check you out. But don't assume if I get this guy, my audience will go to 10 million.
Right.
My speaking podcast, I've had a load of international and high quality speakers. The best one was a 16-year-old who had joined Toastmasters. You have to be 18 to be in Toastmasters, but basically joined under his dad's name. And I was so impressed with him, and he was a beatboxer. His is number one, and it's still number one. And it was basically because he was the first time he did a podcast. He was so excited, well connected because of his beatboxing. He pushed out. And I noticed that's happening a lot as well. A lot of people, they will share it a lot more. Whereas there's sometimes you get people, they come on, they don't even say hello. They're just, yeah, are we ready to go? And then as soon as it's finished, they're gone. They don't even say goodbye.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times you can have a long conversation with people afterwards and make a bond. And then you're more encouraged to actually try to get as much downloads for them and get them a few, whether they've written a book or something like that, try to get them a few clients.
Mm-hmm.
But they're sharing it as well and tagging it and making comments. And just by doing that, whether you got one extra listener from that or you might get 100, it doesn't matter. But I just think being consistent with the tagging, but not doing it in a sneaky way. I always have, like, I have a form and I make sure people are happy with that, but it's an advantage for both of us, you know, that because sometimes their listeners or their followers, you know, they'll be just curious and then they like my style and then they start following me and vice versa, of course. And I, like, a lot of people are afraid to mention, say, other people's podcasts. When I have guests on, I say, make sure you give him a 5-star rating and I give the link. You're not my competitor. You know, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, if your podcast, if we're in the same league, doing the same thing and you're 10 times better than me, that's on me, and I don't mind if they go. But most people listen to kind of 5 to 10, and if they've learned, say, your podcast from me, doesn't mean they're going to leave me. It means that they might learn some other podcasts to me as well, and if they like my style. So don't think of it as a competition thing. And I find that I'm always kind of liaising with other people, sharing kind of skills and things that I know. And not everyone, but people will come back, or even it could be 6 months later, someone go, hey, I just came across this new kind of platform, maybe because they appreciate what you've done and you went out of your way to actually try to help them, you know, build their audience. And instead of hogging it all to yourself and thinking me against the world, I've never been like that. It's like my podcast.
That can't work on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. People appreciate you being, you know, sharing and helping, and they'll do the same for you.
Right. So you created The Awakening as the 4th podcast. Was it like, how long was it after you wrote the book?
Maybe 4 years, I suppose.
Wow.
3 years, yeah.
You mentioned that you were a bit scared or somehow self-conscious about this topic, which I can understand why. Yeah. So how did you
I wasn't scared. It was all the people I gave them to, and like they're kind of influential people that have big businesses, and they said, you'll be whacked for that. And I didn't care. It was my mom said, what about your children? And I went, and that's why I kind of took, I took it because I'm not afraid. I don't have fear of me for things like that. But I thought, all right, I need to take a step back. But no, I see that the world has kind of woken up. They're aware of so much of the fraud that's going on that it's okay now to go out and but what is strange is a lot of the information, like links and stuff that have all disappeared. So the likes of Google have removed all these things. So you need to use Brave when you're doing a search for stuff, and also be conscious of the question you ask, because I know that there's a lot of households, they're fighting each other based on what's shown on the television or what's rammed down the throat. And you need to start thinking for yourself, and don't go into Google, is this safe? Because Google will tell you exactly what you've asked it. Go into Brave and go, why is this dangerous? And then start looking at the different things that come up, and you get a totally different search results. And then you can kind of make up your mind. So the question you ask in social media is very important.
Wait, you're saying that Brave, which is a navigator, works different?
No, there's another. Now. Yeah, because Brave is like, you've got DuckDuckGo, you've got Brave, you've Explorer, Firefox.
But there is a search engine called Brave?
Yeah, Brave, yeah.
Oh, and I don't know this one. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, so that to me is, because I heard DuckDuckGo, which was another good one, was bought out by Google. So I don't use that one anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
use Brave, and yeah, I find
Is it connected with the navigator, or do they just happen to have the same name?
I'd say it's just the same name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Damn, I just lost my possible connection to the crypto thing, because the Brave Navigator is a crypto project, but maybe the search engine is not. Yeah, so, but what made you jump in? Like, is it because you realized that people were more awake already, so you thought there was an audience now and it's easier?
Yeah, and plus, because I saw what they were doing, I said, I need to get people to kind of understand this a lot better. But I got shadow banned. Like, I've had friends that follow me and would give all thumbs up on, say, Facebook, and one of them realized, hey, I gave a thumbs up on that and it's gone. And he went through all of my profile and all of his thumbs up are gone. So that was happening. I was seeing my numbers reversing on YouTube, and then I got banned on YouTube. They gave me strikes, and that was for 3 doctors that I had on. So the doctors were exposing, which it turns out, which I knew was the truth, but when you just get a generic reply, and I go, show me exactly where a point that was incorrect. They can't, so they just remove me. But and that can happen anybody. What I did is I took a screenshot of that and I posted it everywhere and saying, I'm on BitChute, I'm no longer on YouTube. And I think anyone that's kind of fighting the fight realized, yeah, you get a lot of these people like London Real and Hugo Talks. They're still on, and Russell Brand, they're still on YouTube. But there's a few that have been kicked off it, and it's like, why are they removing little old Roy here? Like, and they don't like what I'm actually putting out there. So I was in the top 1% and I jumped to the top 0.5% just by doing that. So they done me a favor,
just by posting the screenshot of YouTube removing you.
Yeah. And I got kicked off Linktree. I mean, when I talked to that, nobody else seems to have got kicked off Linktree, but I got kicked off Linktree as well. I've had a post removed on LinkedIn, and that's just shadow banning is the main thing. But don't the thing is, don't let it get you. And like, I never take it personal. I don't, even when I'm researching, I see a lot of the podcasts or even fellow podcasters, some come and go, they get so depressed because when you're kind of going down the rabbit hole, you see things you don't really want to know and just assume couldn't be happening. But the more you go down, but I don't let it get to me. I kind of embrace the situation, and I can feel sorrow when I'm looking at something, but I don't go to bed with that pain in me. And I just make sure as well I watch comedies and things like that and switch off. But some people, they go down, they search, they research, and then their total conversation is about that. And I think that's a mistake as well, because you have 2 different extremes. You have one that's anti and the other's for, and they're just trying to ram it down each other's throats. I'm more of, this is the information, you decide. So, for example, with Russia and Ukraine, I looked at both sides. I had somebody that actually their house was bombed in the Ukraine, stayed with a friend with her 4 kids in Poland and told their story. I had another guy, an American, who was in Holland, who was on the border helping and giving his story. And then I've had a Russian guy whose wife was from Crimea giving his story. And then we've had other guests that talk about it as well. And it's not what you see on the media. Everything the media tells ain't true. And it's nice to actually listen to people on the ground explaining how it is. And that's why I think why podcasts are so popular. And like, it's journalism that from the heart, as opposed to trying to, like, there's loads of times you'll see the media and it's just they're all regurgitating the exact same thing across the world, because there's something like 5 companies own 90% of the media. So they're just telling you what to believe. Unfortunately, people aren't thinking for themselves, and they're actually just believing what's being told to them.
Even you just saying both sides of the Russia-Ukraine story, there's only one side. Like, if you're a normal person, there are no 2 sides. It's that bad. Like, the first thing they did when the war started in France, they banned 2 media that were Russian. And there were media that I used to read because I wasn't reading them on that topic. I was reading them on other topics. They were just generic media. And I didn't even know they were Russian. I discovered they were Russian when they were banned for being Russian. I was like, I know they were a slight bit different from what we read on other media, which is why I was reading them. And then suddenly they were gone. and all their employees were fired, one day to the next, just because, what is this? Are we supposed to be a democracy and have like free speech and free access, and like, this is concerning.
No, absolutely.
So,
And if you even look at the different leaders, like Swarovski in France, like he was taking kickbacks. In Ireland, I see the leaders there. None of them are serving the people.
do you mean Sarkozy? The
Sarkozy,
former French president? Yes.
Yes. So he was in it, and there's so much thing comes out, but none of them actually. There's no accountability. There's not nobody's. It's like we all know that this is happening. So I think you have to stop thinking you vote left, you vote right. You need the sovereignty yourself and look after yourself, and make that ripple come out, because unfortunately, people are putting their trust in, I'll vote A, I'll vote B, I'll vote left, I'll vote right. As somebody said recently, I think it was some Indian said it, like left and right are both part of the same wing of a bird, so you're not actually getting any change. Some of them give you a little bit. And once you understand that and kind of take control yourself, then you're not living in this kind of depressed state, as unfortunately a lot of people are going through.
Right. Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And that is why podcasts are so popular. But as soon as you have to rely on an algorithm, then the algorithm is basically leading you on. Which brings me to the question, like, where do you find independent podcasts? Like, you say, I just posted the screenshot. Where did you post the screenshot?
Where is it?
Where? Like, what website do you post it to?
I posted it on everything that I'm on. So like I've got LinkedIn group, I've created, like, say, the Freedom Broadcasters on LinkedIn, then I've got my own channel, and then the different Facebook groups. So I've got a Facebook for all of my podcasts, but I shared it on all of them because I'm kind of cross
media.
Yeah, because I mean, just because somebody's listening to the Polish doesn't mean that they're not interested in the awakening. And sometimes I'm dropping little bombs in the Learn Polish just to try to wake people up, just on about, say, the chemicals that are in soap and stuff like that, fluoride, or the dangers of a microwave. You're just putting that out. And with, say, the YouTube thing, there's, like, say, Telegram groups as well, so that's another way of growing your channel. You find the groups that are kind of your circle, because we tend to sometimes, like a lot of podcasters, they kind of throw it up in the air and just hope somebody's going to grab it, and the reality is you have to try to see where would people be congregating, where are the meetings and stuff like that, and maybe do competitions as well, that, look, if you share this, whoever, I'm going to do a draw when I see that you share this profile, and just be creative in your marketing, and that can definitely increase.
So it's also spending a lot of time online, just posting things.
I try
you have to dedicate a lot of time to that.
You do, unfortunately, like, you can outsource it, but I found that I tried outsourcing Instagram.
It doesn't really work. Yeah, I tried to, but
they don't. Yeah. No, it doesn't work. And the thing is, you should limit yourself. So you could say, look, I'm going to spend. So, for example, when I'm doing the Polish one, I know it's going to take an hour by the time I'm posting. So I'm posting it on all the different groups, and then I'm going in and I'm checking, okay, was there any comments on the YouTube, and just kind of stick with that. Whereas you can get, especially with social media, you can go down the route where you just get lost, and then you go, there's 3 hours gone. I need to get the rest of my day. So if you kind of schedule yourself that, okay, I'm spending 30 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever, and stick to that. And another thing that I do, I mean, the fact that I've got 5 is kind of different, but I think, like, say you're your own one, and you're just, say, you put it up on BitChute, YouTube, track them all, and then just watch what the average is. So I have, like, say, 100 episodes, X amount of downloads, and I'm just constantly, and I go, oh, it's increased. And then sometimes I go, something's after happening, it's gone down a bit. And it ends up being, when I'm kind of, because I'm consciously tracking, it's like, oh, I forgot to post it on Facebook, or I forgot to do the, usually that's the reason. And so I have, like, the colors. So I basically, when one episode goes out, I make it yellow. When I have 2, I have green. And if I have a good weekend, I put out more, I make it purple. But I'm just constantly watching everything. At the start, when you're podcasting, you're watching the numbers constantly. Then you get to the stage there. Like, I remember the first 100 that I got when I was doing the speak. It was like I was going around to the Toastmaster meeting. Did you listen? Did you subscribe? Did you play it? I was just trying to get 100 downloads, and then I was happy. Then you get to, like, 1,000. And I remember when I hit 1 million downloads with it was like, it no longer became the thing. So don't spend all your energy on the numbers, because you can go in constantly and just be tracking, oh, how did that do? But do track it, watch it, because then you know what's your average and how to improve your, and like every time you talk to a podcaster, swap ideas, share ideas. And, and like I read about 10 different books, and a lot of them, like I've created a planner now that's going to be put out soon, and the planner is how I tell people that they should fill out the form, like, because when you're interviewing somebody, you know, you can prepare it. Like, we had a fantastic conversation when you were on my show, like, and you know, the same here. Like, I see, you know, you've done your homework. You've been on another show. Sometimes you go on a show and people, they're even asking you prior to recording. Like, I had that one time, the guy, what did we say we were going to talk about again? And don't ever. And this is a big guy, like an international speaker. And I was kind of shocked. But the fact that I knew prior, I was able to say, oh, we said we talk about bum, 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 bum. And it ended up being a nice conversation. But always respect the person coming on as well, and have your different points. And I think, because a lot of people are looking for the secret sauce. And I think the secret sauce is having a brilliant interview, because people share that. Whereas you can do 50 different types of marketing. But for me, I spend my time doing research on the guest. I'm looking at previous interviews. I'm looking on YouTube. I'm looking at all their social media. So I'm trying to have the best that I can, which in turn, that person then enjoys it just as much, which they're more inclined to share it. And sometimes I've had people, they'd blast it out to their email list, and some people have massive email. They could have 10,000, and you see it. Like, I've some YouTube, I mean, some could have five views, and it could be a fantastic conversation, but another one can have 10,000. And it can be simple as someone just doing a blast out, which in turn they like it and they do the same. So it's,
it makes sense. It's the quality of the content that drives the whole thing. So at this point, you had 4 podcasts. You finally had The Awakening, which you wanted to have all along, but you weren't going to stop. So now you also have a crypto podcast. For me, it sounds like there is a logic to that, like going from The Awakening to the crypto, but probably the people listening to us might not have the thought process that. Or maybe I'm also wrong. So go ahead. Like, what made you not stop after The Awakening?
I mean, I should have, but I was kind of delving into the crypto world, and I saw there was so much corruption in that space.
And that's bad. Yes.
Yeah. I saw FTX recently. So those that aren't aware, like, that's one which is government organized. So, and I said, I need to expose this world, but I didn't want to be putting crypto on The Awakening, because people are either into it or they're not. And if you don't like it, I thought I would kind of destroy my existing kind of listeners, and I had to respect them as well. It's not saying that I don't mention it sometimes, or there's times where I'll have one interview that might go out on the meditation, the speaking, and the thing, which is brilliant for me, because it means one interview and I'm able to put it on. But I know that there are different audiences, they're, you know, different locations. So with the crypto, I decided, look, I'm going to create this. And I actually had a bit of a hiccup, which I hadn't before. I tell people, try to have about 10 interviews organized. And I did. And I got 4 done, and everybody let me down. There was one guy traveling all the time. Another person went through a divorce, and others just didn't respond. And I'm like, and I was starting up another company, and I was like, I didn't have the energy. I saw it done well, jumped into the top 5%, and then just came back out. And I made sure, okay, when I'm doing this again now, get them way more organized. And I did. And then it went back into the 5%. Then it went up to 1.5%. And so even thinking to have 10 organized sometimes isn't enough. And a lot of these, they're not time sensitive. Well, I mean, if you're talking about, say, like FTX, yes, but a lot, you can have them, say, the speaking. I have like 30 or 40 reserved there. And it's handy.
Because it's not time sensitive.
Exactly. So, and you don't know, like, I mean, like, I tend to go away for a month in the summer, go to the Mind Valley University with my son. And I don't want to be podcasting. I mean, I can schedule them. I can have them that they're edited and they'll go out automatically. it's not the same kind of marketing I'm doing, but I want to be totally present where I am, which in turn is connecting with it. Like I got to speak in Mind Valley talking about podcasting, which it's really building my audience as well. That's another way of doing
Right,
it.
of course, yeah.
And people kind of go, oh, I like this. And I've got a lot of people started in podcasting. And it's a nice feeling when you see somebody and you go, oh, they're done a couple of 100 episodes. And because of me, just like the guy that taught me, I know there's a load started based on that meeting alone. They all decided, hey, this is great. And I think the secret is, like when I done the course, there was over 100 people in the course. There's less than 10 still podcasting. So some people, they come out to do 1 episode. Some people do 3. They might burn out after 10. I think go into it not going, I want to make $1 million doing this, because it's not that easy to make
very
money.
Profitable either. I mean, I do it mostly for fun.
Exactly.
But
I'm learning on that, and I've kind of just, it was never about the money, but then I kind of said, okay, I'm spending a lot with Zoom, with StreamYard, with all these different things. They're all adding up, and I want to just cover that. So I've noticed, like, say, affiliates, definitely, and not ones that you're just, like, I would never do gaming, gambling, or anything like that, because I'm against that. I think that's not good for society. But there's ones like, there's a guy doing courts, how to, have an online course in courts. And I've got sales through that. So that's the way of doing it. And with, say, like the Pod Match, they're actually paying people now as well. It's not huge, but it's covering all the costs.
Yeah.
And I think, say, for your own service, so for what you're doing, you're mainly promoting yourself, which in turn then gets you a few customers. And I also think is the joy factor, knowing that you're helping people. And sometimes people just write out of the blue, or sometimes you wouldn't even know who's listening. Like I go to an event and people come up, I listen to every one of your episodes. They mightn't comment once. So just because you're not getting the comment, like,
I have that a lot.
Yeah,
I have that a lot. I get new clients. They're like, I have been following you for 2 years. I have watched every single one of your videos. I don't know the person, never seen their name, never left a comment, never answered an email, nothing. But they comment one day, it has ripened, then they work with me. So yeah, you never know.
So I learned from that, because I said, I look at loads of videos, I look at loads of friends doing stuff, and I never give them a thumbs up right now. I enjoy it. So now I'm conscious of doing that.
Yeah.
That, just an acknowledgement, or whether a podcast, like I'd listen to a podcast now, and it's not that I'll go in and I'll give it a 5-star review, because I know it makes a big difference. And you're not paying for it. They're going out of their way, because I mean, not only is the preparation, the editing, the marketing, it's a lot of time for putting out the shows.
Absolutely.
And a simple thing of just giving a 5-star, because that helps you go up the charts. So when you go into listen notes or whatever, the more people, a 5-star rating is great, but with a review is even better. And what I would encourage you to do as well is, when you get nice reviews, use that. So I take a screenshot of that and I share it everywhere. And I also give a link on my podcast, because there's a load of times there's people for 4 years, and they've never listened to your podcast, and it's based on someone saying how brilliant your podcast is, giving it a 5-star review, has helped their life. Then someone goes, like, for example, when I wanted to, I think it was with The Awakening, I wanted to kind of get into different countries. So I said, who do I know in the UK? So I started looking at all my friends and stuff like that. I said, could you please download this? Give me a 5-star rating. Don't be afraid to do that. And so many of them say, I love this, and they still listen. So even though you're kind of saying, hey, give me a hand, and I mean, vice versa, like if they've got a channel, or if they want, help people as well. If, like, when I see people making a post, hey, I want to grow my YouTube channel, straight away I do it. Or if I see someone opening a new business, I'm always liking and sharing. Unfortunately, a lot of people are they don't want you to succeed. So you need to be conscious of that. So I'm always trying to support other people. And I think it doesn't have to be them that it comes back, but I think it comes back in its own way, whatever way the universe works. But I think just by supporting people, you get supported.
Right. So yeah, that will be a message for our audience right now. Like, if you're the kind of person who will watch every video for 2 years, and it's nice to leave a comment and to leave a review. It really, really helps also other people find it. So that's going. And normally I say that at the end of the episode, but hey, we're almost at the end anyway, because we're almost at the 1 hour mark. So do you plan on making another podcast? I mean, you have 5. You can't stop here, right? What are going to be your next topics?
It's actually there's a guy that's reached out based on Lunch Club. We had a conversation, so we've already got one in the pipeline for his business. So it's when that's ready, there'll be another one as well. Will I kind of park some of them at some stage? Maybe, or I was even looking at, say, the speaking podcast to make it just more about kind of general conversations instead of just speaking, because I've covered. But the reality is, after, I don't know, my nearly 200 episodes or so, every single person brings something different to the table. You would think I can only learn so much on speaking pauses and, stage presence stuff. Everybody. So if you're really interested in becoming a brilliant speaker, like, you listen to all the episodes, everybody has some. I'm learning every time somebody's on the show and I'm going, never thought of it like that, or just, wow, that's brilliant.
Right.
And, so, and with the YouTube, like, because my son, he follows some games on YouTube, so he was watching the telly on my channel, and he's always, if some are doing magic, I was trying to teach him magic just to be kind of good at speaking, and the guy would say, give me a thumbs up or whatever, and he's always giving a thumbs up, and I noticed my subscribers started going up, and I was like, what's going on here? I went up like 30 or 40 some weeks, and I think it's because YouTube is rewarding you for actually engaging. So no, I watch a lot of, even for my research and everything, and I'm conscious now of giving the thumbs up. And I think that, and if you can give a little comment, the comment, I think, is even, the added bonus to it.
So you mean that commenting on other channels helps your channel?
Yes. Yeah. So when you're logged in, not as anonymous, but when you're logged in on your own channel and then you're doing your research and you're looking at different, you're just watching and you're enjoying it, but just always give a thumbs up. Obviously, if it's good. I mean, you don't want to be giving thumbs up to something that's terrible.
I'm gonna have to track that.
Yeah. And just see, but I definitely noticed that it makes a big difference. So that's another little trick.
Good to know. So boost your YouTube channel by boosting other people's. Okay, I'll try because I mean I do that randomly, but yeah. All right, you didn't tell us what your next podcast will be about.
It's basically, the company is kind of, I suppose, competing with TripAdvisor, because when I was in Estonia, I was looking to do something with my son, and we spent ages looking for this place, and it was gone, but TripAdvisor didn't say that. And then we'll do something else, and that was gone as well. And what you find is, when you go onto these different apps, you're constantly either going into one app, another app, or you're having to go into the search engine. So these guys are actually putting it together as one, and you go into one and you're able to find everything, and that people can actually rate and even make note, this is closed, so that it's constantly updated. Same with restaurants and everything, so that you're getting a proper, because even restaurants, they change the buyer, sometimes it's like a cheap restaurant and then it becomes an expensive, or vice versa. So by people constantly making reviews, it's going to be one app that does everything. And so I'm kind of like the podcasting guy with the founder for doing this, and it'll be launched soon.
So that's the company, which is basically like an upgraded TripAdvisor, and the podcast will be what focus?
It'll be focused on kind of the customers for that either restaurant or different companies that would be using the service to say how much it is helping them. And I mean, I don't want to be doing a load of episodes, but at least one a week. And if there's smaller ones, you can do two. But it'll be on my own, like the bio link /podcast. Once it's launched, it'll go up there, and people will be able to find that one as well.
Perfect. Well, that sounds amazing. So I'll put all of that in the show note. We are right at the 1 hour mark. So do you have like last words or recommendation for our audience?
I'd say, if you want to see change in the world, don't be expecting somebody else to do it. You can do it. And why no better way than actually doing it with a podcast. You can even do it with a few people, and it ain't that hard, because like technical wise, I'm not brilliant on a computer. Me
neither.
And it's simple. Like I've got a webinar that teaches people a lot. I've obviously got the course. I've got a course, an online course, and then I do coaching. But I've even got a webinar that gives you a lot of what we've discussed, plus a bit more, because I'm also conscious a lot of people don't have the money, and I just want to make sure that you're not held back because you don't have the funds to do that. Obviously, if you want to do it faster and do it better, there's a service there. But like, people can just check out the webinar and it'll teach them a lot of things. And I've got videos that show you how to edit on Audacity. and it's simple. I just make the audio quality good, because I think that's very important as well. Some people, they just put it out as it is, but I edit it. But just on another thing, a new thing, because I'm constantly kind of watching it now, when there's videos where there's not much pause fillers or just goes smoothly, I'm putting it up because I'm on Anchor on the Spotify, which is like the Joe Rogan style, that you can actually watch it and then they distribute it. So you can't put up an edited audio and then the video separate. It's just one. But it seems to be good. And I'm just tracking that to see, will that have a big impact? And I think just when you're podcasting, just play around with things. Not everything works. You go, this thought this would be better, but it's not. And don't just keep doing something because you assume it's going to be good. Just be conscious. And, you know, you're not a tree. You can move.
That's true about everything that you want to do. Like, you need to track what you're doing. You never really know what's going to work, but yeah, you can do it. So that's going to be
exactly
the last word. Roy, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you who are listening or watching this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I did. If you are still listening right now, well, thank you so much for being with us for all this time. Please do leave a comment or a review. As we said, this really, really helps the podcast get noticed and create more amazing conversations like this one. So thank you so much for being with us. And thank you, Roy.
Merci. Au revoir.
Merci à toi.